Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar that will focus on unpacking Cerebro's matatag lessons for effective daily teaching. For those of you who are attending Cerebro's webinar series for the first time today, you may have already heard about Cerebro because you are already using it in your school, or someone from Cerebro has already presented our platform in your school. And there might be also some of you who are hearing Cerebro for the very first time today. And I hope you will be able to gain a deeper understanding of what we actually do and what we provide to schools right after this session. Just to give you a background about this webinar, Cerebro conducts a series of professional development programs throughout the year wherein we discuss topics on teaching strategies, classroom management, educational technology, and the like. And we also conduct training activities and community events that feature the various innovations that our team at Cerebro has been working on, while relating these new innovations to the developments that are happening in the Philippine education system today. And for today, we will give special focus to the learning materials that are readily available in the Cerebro platform, particularly the ready-made lessons, quizzes, performance tasks, learning companions, and teaching guides that are built into our flagship e-learning platform. These digitized resources serve as a daily guide for teachers in facilitating their classes while ensuring their compliance with the standards set by the Department of Education. While Cerebro is known as an educational technology company, at the same time, we are also registered as an educational publishing company. Since we produce both print and non-print educational content, such as ebooks and even printed textbooks that are being used by our partner schools. And as a publisher, we are very much used to depth and updating and revising the national standard curriculum periodically. While the general public may have been surprised when the Matatag curriculum was first announced in 2022, it was not actually surprising for publishers like us, since we're actually aware that these curriculum revisions regularly happen from time to time. And it's just a matter of identifying when the next curriculum revision will be. And fortunately, Cerebro was among the publishers that got a first glance of the Matatag curriculum before it was even launched for pilot testing in school year 2022 to 2023. So we were able to join in the phased implementation of this new curriculum, which at present we are already on the third phase of its rollout. Our goals for today's webinar are simple. First is we would like to help teachers gain a deeper understanding of how DepEd's Matatag curriculum is structured in order to help them better align their teaching strategies with the actual intent of the curriculum. And lastly, we also aim to showcase how Cerebro's ready-made teaching materials are designed in relationship to how they adhere to the standards set by the Department of Education. Just a disclaimer before we continue with our session. I'll be speaking on the point of view of an educator, an educational technologist, and an instructional designer, and not as a curriculum developer. Just to clarify, I am not from the Department of Education and we were not involved in the crafting of the Matatag curriculum. Our role here today is to help everyone understand that what the new curriculum is all about, how it is designed, and what are the experiences and expectations of DepEd from teachers in the manner of delivering the lessons from the new curriculum to their students. We will try to understand DepEd's Matatag curriculum in contrast with the previous curriculum implemented in the Philippines. And hopefully, we can also acknowledge in this session the importance of continuously revising the curriculum with the goal of improving our educational programs and meeting our expected outcomes. As part of DepEd's advocacy on promoting this new academic initiative, they created a video that lays out the goals of the Matatag curriculum and the Philippine education agenda for the next few years. Let us first watch this video for us to get a good understanding of what the Matatag curriculum is.
Lahat tayo nagsisikap.
Lahat tayo nagsisipag.
Lahat tayo nais tumalino't gumaling.
Lahat tayo gustong makatulong sa pamilya at sa bayan.
Lahat tayo maaasahan.
Lahat tayo gagawa.
Lahat tayo tutulong.
Lahat tayo didiskarte at dilikha para sa ating kinabukasan.
Dahil lahat tayo ay may pangarap, may gustong abutin, may nais marating.
At kahit pa humarap sa libu-libong hamon ng buhay,
Ang tatag ng lahing Pilipino,
Mangingibabaw.
Susulong.
Tayo ay magiging matatag.
matatag na kurikulum,
Matatag na paaralan at agarang serbisyo para sa edukasyon.
Matatag na programa sa mag-aaral at kabataan.
matatag na suporta para sa mga guro.
ang ating pangarap,
Maaabot.
Mararating
Basta tulong-tulong.
magsisipag tayo.
Magsisikap tayo.
para sa isang bansang makabata.
Batang makabansa.
Lahat tayo
Lahat tayo
Lahat tayo, matatag ang pangarap, matatag ang kinabukasan.
And of course, the video still shows the former DepEd Secretary, Vice President Sara Duterte, who was seen as the main figure in the launch of the Matatag curriculum. But of course, the new DepEd Secretary, former Senator Sani Angara, since he took over the Department of Education, vowed to continue the implementation of the Matatag program during his term. And as you will be seeing here, the Matatag curriculum is not just something that is being implemented in a whim out of nothing. It is not something that was just a bright idea of someone at the Department of Education and decided to revamp the entire curriculum in an instant. Rather, the Matatag curriculum is a product of the extensive review of the K-12 curriculum after having the first set of students who graduated from the complete program from kindergarten to senior high school. We can remember that during the time of the late former President Benigno Aquino III, he sought the help of former De La Salle University President, Brother Armin Luistro, to improve the overall quality of education in the Philippines by aligning it with global standards. And that's why Brother Armin Luistro became the Secretary of the Department of Education at that time. Primarily because De La Salle University was already known and widely recognized to be following global standards. And the Philippines would like to somehow use their experiences and workflows in that university as a benchmark for educational success. And the addition of 2 years of education in the high school level was seen as something that would greatly benefit students since their years in school will already be aligned with the requirements of foreign countries. And the addition of 2 years will also allow students to be readily employable right after graduating, since by the time of their senior high school graduation, they will already be 18 years old. So we can see that the K-12 program was a very idealistic program. However, it was not without blemish, since there have been numerous feedback, again, coming from different sectors, teachers, students, and even parents, who raised different concerns about the curriculum, highlighting various rooms for improvement in order to better achieve its expected outcomes. And on another note, the whole world suddenly experienced almost 2 years of shutdown during the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced schools to adopt alternative delivery modes, whether through online learning, modular learning, or other methods, which obviously nobody has been prepared for, especially here in the Philippines. that the education sector is seen as one of the most traditional sectors in the country. Compared with our neighboring countries, Philippine schools are still largely traditional, where our main mode of teaching and learning is through face-to-face classes. And since face-to-face classes were prohibited during the pandemic, teachers found it difficult to deliver their classes properly. And as an effect, no, students also found it difficult to cope with the changes in the educational setting. So what's the result? There is an undeniable learning loss on the part of the students, where they were not able to learn about specific and important competencies that are required for them to learn at their age. Hence, there is a need to implement measures for learning recovery so students can cope with what they have not learned during the pandemic. And finally, the Matatag curriculum is an attempt to address the alarmingly low scores that Filipino students are getting in standardized examinations, such as the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, which ranked the Philippines at the bottom of the list of around 70 countries throughout the world in terms of skills in mathematics and reading comprehension. So we can see that the Matatag curriculum is part of a well-planned strategy to address the issues on the K-12 curriculum, learning loss during the pandemic, and the low scores in the PISA examinations. And it is not something that can easily be removed or changed just because the DepEd Secretary is now Angara and no longer Vice President Duterte. And there is a clear political tension between the current and the former government administrations. And now we may encounter the question, why is there a need for us to create a new curriculum and not just tweak the existing K-12 curriculum? There could be several answers to this question. But basically, the two main reasons is that despite the K-12 curriculum being a very idealistic curriculum, it was not enough to help the Filipino students excel in standardized examinations such as the PISA. And secondly, the issue is not just on the curriculum itself, but the other demands of the educational system on the part of the teachers that significantly affect their performance in delivering the lessons to their students, making them unable to teach the fundamental skills and being merely focused on finishing the lessons on time based on what is expected of them by the curriculum, no? Since the actual number of teaching days per topic was specifically indicated in the old curriculum guides, no, of the old curriculum. After all, the curriculum is always meant to be improved anyway. As the author, Peter Oliva, puts it, curriculum change is a continuous process. And that curriculum improvement is continuous cycle. We cannot be stuck in just one curriculum forever. Otherwise, there will be no improvement at all. From time to time, we need to pause for a while and see whether we are getting to where we want our students to be. If we think that we are not getting to that place on a pace that we expect ourselves to be, we need to identify the roadblocks, understand these hindrances, and revise our approach as may be necessary. And it is not just one person who created this new curriculum. In fact, the Department of Education shared in one of their official releases that there are actually more than 1,100 people involved in reviewing the old curriculum and developing the Matatag curriculum. And these people are coming not only from the Department of Education, but the government also sought the advice of those from the private school sector, higher education institutions, industry partners, and even international experts with significant experience in curriculum development. And even if one person out of the 1,168 people who developed the curriculum leaves the Department of Education, the results of the curriculum review would have been the same. And the newly revised curriculum is still expected to stay. If you have attended other training sessions or advocacy programs before, no, that are related to the Matatag curriculum, you would have already heard of the key features of the new curriculum. And the usual characteristics that the trainers say are about the new curriculum being decongested, meaning to say the number of subjects or learning areas in the curriculum have been reduced. And that is true. But this does not mean that the students will have lesser things to learn from the new curriculum. This is because the Department of Education merely wanted to give more time for students to learn and master foundational skills, especially reading and basic mathematics, so that when they develop a solid understanding of these basic concepts, they will be able to understand more complex applications in the succeeding grade levels. And since there is better involvement of representatives from various industries outside the government, there is also a clearer articulation of 21st century skills that are expected from students as they graduate from the whole program and prepare to enter the world of work. And while values education under the title of Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao has been removed from the curriculum, it was replaced by good manners and right conduct, which includes broader concepts on peace education, no? Avoidance of conflict, religious tolerance, and inclusivity. We can also notice that if we review the curriculum very closely, it appears to follow the pattern of the United States Common Core Curriculum, which is accepted by many English-speaking countries as the international standard in education. If we are going to take a closer look at the comparison between the previous curriculum, which was the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Program, introduced during the time of late President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III, and the new Matatag curriculum under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the new curriculum still follows the same structure, which is the K642, wherein kindergarten is part of the required program to be continued by 6 years of elementary, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school. That's why K642. But now, there is a stronger emphasis on core subjects rather than on applied and specialized skills, so that students will have a better knowledge of foundational skills such as reading and basic mathematics, both of which are the subjects where the Philippines is ranking low on the PISA examinations. The Matatag curriculum also promotes mastery of the subject matter and does not merely encourage students to be critical thinkers. Well, critical thinking is good, but of course, mastery is also important. Well, there is nothing wrong in training students to be critical thinkers, and that is actually what we want our students to be. However, the Department of Education says that students cannot be critical thinkers if they do not master the basics, if they do not master the basic subjects first. This is also the reason why the Matatag curriculum is only focused on kindergarten to junior high school for now, because the foundational skills are mastered on these grade levels. And once a student reaches senior high school, that is the time that they will acquire the applied and specialized skills based on their areas of interest, which in the case of the newly launched Strengthened Senior High School program, the choice is between specializing in academics or technical professional skills, also known as Tech Pro. In terms of the medium of instruction, the use of English and Filipino remains the same, but the use of Mother Tongue-Based Language Education, or MTBLE, has been removed in Matatag, especially that not all regions in the Philippines have their own dialect, and since majority of regions, especially in the more populous areas, are also using Filipino as their primary language, MTBLE only duplicates existing language subjects and merely adds to the congestion of learning competencies in the curriculum. And since it was experienced by almost everyone during the onset of the pandemic, the introduction and use of technology in education was merely encouraged before and not heavily emphasized. No? But now, in the Matatag curriculum, there is a greater emphasis on digital literacy, with schools being required to integrate ICT in the delivery of lessons. So students and even teachers will be more familiar with the use of technology in education. So in the event that another global crisis or pandemic comes, there will be lesser learning loss, no? Since the education industry is prepared to continue the teaching and learning process with the help of technology. If your school is following the standards of the Private Education Assistance Committee or the PEAC or PEA, you may be familiar already that the activities to be delivered offline and online should now be identified in the curriculum map. That's part of preparing for what is to come. If we further look back to the curriculum before the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum launched in 2011, the revised basic education curriculum or the RBEC that was used from 2002 to 2010, where I guess many of the people in this call are a product of, judging from the profile of participants that I saw from the registration list. No, the RBEC gave or comparing it, no, K-12 2011 and RBEC 2002 to 2010, yung K-12 curriculum gave more importance on the memorization of concepts since most examinations designed during that period was heavily reliant on the cognitive domain. So, ay baliktad. No, the old curriculum from 2002 to 2010 focused on memorization. So, when you were studying in school, you would remember that majority of the tasks given to students are memorization. So it was more of head level knowledge only. The K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum changed this by focusing on what we call the higher order thinking skills or the HOTS, where students were encouraged to dig deeper on concepts being presented to them, encouraging them to ask essential questions, and promoting more of an inquiry-based approach where students ask more questions to develop a better understanding of the concepts being discussed. Now, in the Matatag curriculum, it combines the focuses of both the 2002 curriculum and the 2011 curriculum by saying that while higher order thinking skills are important, we still need to create a solid foundation on basic skills in order to equip our students to be better critical thinkers. So now, the foundational skills are seen as a prerequisite for higher order thinking. And again, since there is no time to go back to teaching the basic concepts, especially if the students are already in their higher grade levels, the solution of the Department of Education is to reduce the number of competencies by combining those that are related to each other into one competency so they can make time for the rediscussion of basic concepts. By now, it is becoming clearer to us that the Matatag curriculum is not merely a set of competencies issued by the Department of Education, but rather part of a bigger picture where the Philippine education system is heading to. And to solve the PISA problem and to recover what may have been lost during the pandemic, the Matatag agenda covers the implementation of the National Learning Recovery Plan, which according to Senator Win Gatchalian during one of the engagements of the Second Congressional Commission on Education or EDCOM2, addresses what he calls an emergency in the education system that needs urgent attention in order to mitigate the potential negative effects that this might bring to the greater Philippine economy. If you are from the public school sector, you may be familiar or you may have already been part of these initiatives, no? Such as the National Learning Camp, the National Reading Program, which is more popularly known by students as Catch-up Fridays, or in some private schools, the DARE program, which stands for Drop Everything and Read, the National Mathematics Program, the National Science and Technology Program, and other relevant programs. So what we see in the curriculum guides is just the tip of the iceberg, since the Matatag agenda is far greater than that. Actually, it does not only cover what skills and competencies students need to learn, but it also includes how schools will be more equipped in teaching such competencies to students and how to prepare teachers to deliver the lessons properly to the learners. The whole Matatag agenda can be summarized into 4 major points or components, such as to make the curriculum relevant, to produce competent and job-ready, active and responsible citizens, to take steps to accelerate delivery of basic education facilities and services, to take good care of learners by promoting learner well-being, inclusive education, and a positive learning environment, and to give support to teachers to teach better. But it does not end there. The question now is, how can these 4 major points or components be implemented in a more concrete manner? Is there a definite and step-by-step procedure on how to ensure that these components are being acted upon? And the answer to these questions is yes. The Department of Education actually laid out more specific actionable steps on how to fully implement this agenda. For the first point on making the curriculum relevant to produce competent and job-ready, active, and responsible citizens, we will see that revising the curriculum is just one of the many actionable steps. The goal of making the curriculum relevant included a significant review of the entire K-12 curriculum, removing what needs to be removed, combining the things that can be combined, and increasing the focus on the concepts that need to be mastered. On the second point about taking steps to accelerate delivery of basic education facilities and services, not many of us know that the Matatag program also covers the creation of school facilities and infrastructure that will help make the implementation of the Matatag agenda more successful. It also includes providing various resources for students, such as library hubs, collection of educational materials, and making schools capable of adopting technology, covering schools both in the cities and those in the rural areas, and strengthening the complementarity between public and private schools so that they will not see each other as competitors on who teaches the better quality of education, but rather as equal agencies, both working towards the attainment of the same Matatag agenda and enjoying the mutual support given by one another. On the part of the private schools, they act as the extension of the Department of Education for students who have better financial resources. So the government will be able to allot more slots to students who are more in need financially. On the part of the government, they are supporting the private schools through financial assistance, grants, and subsidies. So private schools can carry on the government's agenda when providing services to their own students. So hindi magkalaban dapat ang public at private schools. Tulungan yon, complementarity. And for the third point, on taking good care of learners by promoting learner well-being, inclusive education, and a positive learning environment, it is apparent that the Matatag curriculum's view of inclusivity and education is more than just incorporating the theory on multiple intelligences in the teaching and learning process. Rather, it expands its coverage for students who are in disadvantaged situations, such as those who have been in teenage pregnancy, children who are at risk, those who are in conflict with the law, those who are mentally unwell, those who are in indigenous groups and are in remote areas, and those with disabilities. So, labas ito dun sa multiple intelligences. But these are also factors that are worth considering. In the previous curricula implemented by the Department of Education, the concept of inclusive education was still quite different and limited. And the coverage was not as extensive as the one that we have in the new Matatag curriculum. And for the fourth point on giving support to teachers to teach better, the previous curricula used by the Department of Education did not give much importance to teachers, unlike the one that we have now in the Matatag curriculum. This time, the curriculum does not only enforce what the students need to learn, but it also equips the teachers with the necessary skills, tools, and resources that they need in order to teach the required competencies effectively and efficiently. The Matatag curriculum gives importance to the benefits accorded to teachers, so they will have less things to worry about themselves, and they can focus more on what needs to be done inside the classroom as they facilitate the teaching and learning process. This also includes professional development programs like this one that we are doing right now, and capacitating our teachers to be better users of technology in order to make teaching more bearable for them and allowing them to be more efficient in doing the tasks expected from them. If we are going to encapsulate the 4 points or components of the Matatag curriculum into just 2 bullet points, we will arrive at the following. First is about the goal of the government to produce competent and job-ready citizens who are literate with basic and foundational knowledge and skills and can communicate well. And second is about the efforts being undertaken by the government in order to ensure the attainment of their goal, which is to improve educational infrastructure, promote better inclusive education and students' holistic well-being, and support teachers in becoming better educators, all towards making a positive learning environment for our students. And if we are to further compress these points in just one statement, we will realize that the main goal of the Matatag curriculum is fairly simple, and that is to make every Filipino learner literate, and everything else, including strategies, plans, and others, are all pointing towards that direction of making Filipino learners literate. And this is not just a single person's job. This is the job of teachers, instructional leaders, the parents, the government, and the whole society, acting as a support mechanism towards the attainment of this goal. So, having said all of those things about the Matatag curriculum, what is it that really makes the Matatag curriculum unique in contrast with the previous curricula used by the Department of Education? Since there is a greater focus on the capacity building of teachers, the new Matatag curriculum recognizes that teachers have the full control and responsibility of the teaching and learning process inside the classroom. Hence, the curriculum no longer states how teachers are expected to teach subjects, but merely indicates what needs to be taught. Basically, the teacher is given a free hand on deciding the duration of lessons and using appropriate assessment strategies that will help identify if students are actually learning the skills expected of them and determine what level of proficiency they are in. Let's take a look at this curriculum guide for kindergarten as an example. In the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education curriculum on the left side, there is obviously more columns on the table, which also includes the code for each competency. If you're familiar with the old curriculum, the code actually gives us a lot of information about what the Department of Education expects from teachers in each competency. On the code, the first set of letters refer to the subject, followed by the Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, or 4 to indicate which quarter it should be taught, followed by a letter which indicates the sequence of lessons per week, where A means it should be taught on week 1, B means week 2, C means week 3, and so on. And the code ends with a number indicating the sequence of learning competencies based on what needs to be taught first. As you can see, the old K-12 curriculum is very rigid and forces teachers to strictly follow the manner by which DepEd wants them to teach the lessons. In some curriculum guides for other levels and subjects, even the teaching strategies and the reference materials are also indicated in the curriculum guide. In the new Matatag curriculum guide, only the content standard, performance standard, and the learning competencies are left. And the codes indicating the duration and sequence of lessons are no longer included. Hence, the new Matatag curriculum allow for greater flexibility on the part of the teachers, allowing them to decide when to move forward to the next lesson and judging by their own competence based on the results of the assessments they are giving to their students. Here's another example of a curriculum guide for science in grade 4. Very evidently, you can see that the code, the list of learning materials, and even the list of science equipment to be used are no longer indicated in the new curriculum. After all, not all schools have the same equipment available in their campuses, and not everyone has access to the reference materials stated in the curriculum guide. In the end, teachers are still expected to create their own syllabi and learning plans anyway, where they will be deciding on what materials do they have that they can use for their own classes. But now that DepEd is giving teachers more flexibility in determining the teaching strategies, and duration of each lesson, teachers need to be more knowledgeable about how to effectively determine the best way of teaching the lessons indicated in the curriculum. For this purpose, teachers are expected to do the unpacking of competencies, wherein they will need to identify what resources are available to them and whether these resources will contribute to the purpose of the lessons that they will be teaching. They also need to take consideration of the time that they will spend in teaching the lessons, since even if DepEd does not enforce the duration anymore, teachers will still need to finish the curriculum for the entire quarter and of the course within the school year, or else this will contribute to more learning losses when students move forward to the next grade level without mastering the required competencies from their previous grade level. Most books on the curriculum development topics suggest these 5 Ps in unpacking learning competencies. For the purpose, teachers need to identify what they are teaching and why they are teaching the lesson. Where does the lesson fit in the entire curriculum? And how will it benefit the students? For the preparation, teachers need to determine if they have the right resources, if the classroom is fit for the purpose, and if they need any special arrangement in order to deliver the lesson. For the pitch, teachers need to deliberate how they are going to implement differentiated learning strategies. What is the proficiency level of their students so they can deliver the lessons more appropriately? And how are they going to manage extending the duration of the lesson if the fundamental skills are not mastered on time? For the pace, teachers need to identify what learning activities are they going to ask their students to do and what varied strategies they can do to keep the classes enjoyable and not redundant for students. And for the progress, teachers need to determine how they will measure the student's level of learning and understanding and how will they know if a student has actually mastered the competencies or not. In terms of mastering the competencies, it would help if teachers will be able to identify how they would describe a student who belongs to a particular level of proficiency. So in this case, if there are 4 stages of proficiency, such as students who merely know the prerequisite skills, students who are progressing, students who are becoming proficient, and students who are advanced, what are the actual measurable indicators that teachers can check to see if students have met what is being asked for in the curriculum? For example, in mathematics, how can a teacher know that a student barely knows the basics or the prerequisite skills? How will a teacher know if the student is starting to make progress? How will a teacher know if the student is becoming proficient when dealing with numbers? How would a teacher describe a student who has advanced knowledge of mathematics? Once a teacher has identified the descriptions for these levels of proficiency, it will be easier for that teacher to design assessments that are suitable for their learners, to check if they have already mastered the learning competencies indicated in the curriculum guide. In the new Matatag curriculum, we can specifically see that learners are grouped based on key stages where they are expected to be. So key stage 1 includes students from the kindergarten to grade 3, where they are expected to be in the primary levels of education. Key stage 2 includes students from grades 4 to 6, where they are expected to be in an intermediate level of education. And lastly, key stage 3, which includes students from grades 7 to 10, where they are considered to be in the secondary level of education. These 3 stages can also be considered as levels of proficiency, since under a spiral curriculum, the same topics are being taught in all levels. But these topics will have a varying level of difficulty. For example, the concept of verbs in the English subject is taught even in grade 1. And this will be taught again in grade 4. And the same topic will be taught again in grade 7. But the expectations from students who learn about verbs in different stages also differ depending on which stage they are in. Maybe they will just learn about what an action word is on grade 1. Then they will identify which words are action words when they are in grade 4. And they will incorporate or use these verbs in essays and other written works when they are already in grade 7. So it has a spiral progression. So when planning lessons, it is important for teachers to ask these three guide questions first. Where do they need to go? Meaning, what is their goal and purpose for that lesson? Where they are now? Meaning, what knowledge their students already have at the moment? And how can they get to where they want to be? Meaning, what strategies are they going to undertake in order to achieve their goal? Mhm. In pedagogy, this is called the zone of proximal development, which was contributed by Lev Vygotsky. In this diagram, the teacher is encouraged to identify what is already known, what is not yet known, and what is it that students can learn if they are given the necessary support and assistance. But of course, we do not want to complicate things. So Cerebro has already prepared lessons that can serve as a starting point for teachers in their daily teaching. However, I would like to clarify that Cerebro's ready-made lessons are not meant to replace the teacher's role of being the lead facilitator of learning inside the classroom. Our goal here is to help reduce the workload of teachers by providing the materials that we can standardize. So teachers can focus more on preparing how to deliver these lessons in a way that is most suitable for their students. And we are proud to say that at present, Cerebro has the largest collection of e-learning content, comprising of more than 12,000 ready-made lessons, quizzes, performance tasks, ebooks, and lesson plans, covering 129 subjects from kindergarten up to senior high school, and even including college general education subjects, comprising about 95% of DepEd's K-12 curriculum. So you might be wondering, why is it only 95%? Because the remaining 5% are referring to competencies that require the physical performance of students, such as in TLE. Students are expected to learn cooking, dressmaking, and the like. And even in physical education, subjects, di ba, that would require them to perform physical exercises, which cannot be merely digitized in PowerPoint presentation format, since actual physical engagement is required. So yun yung remaining 5%. So when a teacher opens his or her course page in Cerebro, provided that the subject he or she is teaching is part of DepEd's Matatag curriculum, he or she will see a curriculum map which is already patterned after PAAC or PAYAX format. He or she will also see slide presentations that can be directly projected in screens inside the classroom, auto-graded quizzes that help teachers in measuring students' level of understanding of each topic, performance tasks with corresponding rubrics for grading that are already aligned with the performance standard indicated in DepEd's curriculum guide, learning companion, which is an ebook in PDF format that students can download and use similar to a textbook, and a teaching guide, which takes the form of a lesson plan that gives teachers the step-by-step instructions on how to effectively deliver Cerebro's ready-made lessons to their students. Again, take note that these ready-made content are available if the subjects loaded in your Cerebro account are part of DepEd's Matatag curriculum. If the subject you are handling is not part of Matatag, then Cerebro will still provide you with a blank course page where you can upload your own resources for your class. So if for example, you're handling 5 different preparations, 5 different subjects, and 3 of those 5 subjects are part of the Matatag curriculum, then it means that you will only have to prepare for 2 lessons and you will be able to reduce your workload, di ba? Because instead of preparing 5 lessons every day, you will only need to prepare 2 lessons. So this is how your Cerebro course page looks like by default. You will see a long page that includes all the teaching resources that you can use for the subject for the entire term or school year. But the first part of the course page, you will see the link to your curriculum guide. And as mentioned earlier, this follows the PAYAX format for a curriculum map. You can see that the quarter is already divided into the different topics, and the content and performance standards are already indicated based on what's provided by DepEd in the official curriculum guide. You will also notice that the learning competencies here are already labeled with the letters A, M, and T, which stand for acquire, make meaning, and transfer, which is a framework based on the understanding by design or UBD model by Wiggins and McTighe that promotes backwards teaching, or simply speaking, teaching with the end goal in mind. So in every lesson, we have concepts that we would like our students to acquire, concepts that we would like them to derive meaning from, and concepts that we would like them to transfer or to translate into new knowledge or concrete actions. It also indicates the use of assessments that would refer teachers to follow what is indicated in the teaching guide. And it also determines which activities ought to be done offline inside the classroom or online, probably when students are back at home. And take note that Cerebro does not require students to use gadgets in school. It is also not necessary for students to have an internet connection inside the classroom. If the school does not allow students to use their gadgets inside the classroom, it's totally fine. Then the students' learning activities inside the Cerebro platform may be used as review materials when they are at home. Additionally, it is also not necessary for students to answer their online quizzes inside the classroom. Rather, students can use the ready-made quizzes as practice tests at home, just to check or measure if they have understood the concepts taught to them by their teacher in school. After all, DepEd tells us naman that not all activities are meant to be graded, since there are some activities that can be recorded but not graded, and there are other activities that are both recorded and graded. Next is that you will also notice that the lessons in the course pages are divided into quarters according to DepEd's curriculum. There are usually 10 weeks for each quarter, but you will notice that there are only at least 8 lessons per quarter in Cerebro. But this does not mean that Cerebro's lessons are incomplete. The reason for this is that Cerebro follows the 8+1+1 design, wherein there will be 8 weeks allotted to actual lessons, followed by 1 week for the performance task, and the final 1 week for the quarterly examination. So if we get the total of 8+1+1, it is still equivalent to 10 weeks, the total number of weeks in one quarter. And it is also very important to note that Cerebro's lessons are not meant to be taught by using one PowerPoint presentation per day. That's not how it is designed. Because if you do that, you will finish the entire lessons for the whole quarter in just 8 days instead of finishing it in 8 weeks. That is why we strongly suggest that you follow the lesson structure as indicated in Cerebro's teaching guide. If you go at the very bottom of your Cerebro course page, you will see the link to your teaching companion. This teaching companion is your teaching guide. It lays down the content standards and performance standards required by DepEd for that particular quarter, as well as the specific learning competencies that are pertinent to the lessons that you will teach for that particular week. It actually takes the form of a semi-detailed lesson plan that gives you a step-by-step instruction on how a specific lesson is ought to be taught and on what activities you can do to introduce the lesson and measure your students' learning of the key concepts being taught. Each lesson in the teaching guide is structured in a way that it has 3 parts. First is the preliminary activity, which serves as the motivation part for our students as we introduce a new lesson for the week. Preliminary activities can vary, as some lessons in Cerebro would have activities like creating simple illustrations or drawing concept maps, while some activities would even ask students to produce an entire role play. So if in your school, each subject is taught for 3 days in a week with a duration of 1 hour per session, then ideally, this part would already consume 1 session that is good for 1 hour. But of course, that would depend on how much time you will give your students to perform the activity and how long will it take you to process the students' insights for that activity. And gradually, introduce the new topic for the week. Then, the second part is the discussion proper, which is ideally scheduled for day 2. And here, you're already expected to use the ready-made PowerPoint presentation for the topic of the week. And lastly, is the post-test, which aims to measure the students' level of understanding for each topic that they have just learned. That is ideally accomplished on the third session of the subject for the week. So again, if a subject has 3 session days per week, and you do the preliminary activity on day 1, discussion proper on day 2, and the post-test on day 3, then each lesson is enough for the whole week. Well, of course, there may be instances that the preliminary activity is quite short and the discussion proper might be too long. So in those cases, you can definitely begin the discussion proper on day 1, right after conducting the preliminary activity. Then you will continue with the discussions on day 2 and finish the post-test on day 3. If you follow this structure for 8 consecutive weeks, then you will be able to finish the 8 lessons on time. And of course, you can continue with the performance task on week 9. Here's an example of a preliminary activity from Cerebro's teaching guide for the reading and literacy subject in grade 1. As you can see, this is a motivational activity that helps prepare students for the new lesson that will be introduced. And since the students in this level are very young learners, grade 1, no, the activities are also made appropriate for the student's age. These simple activities include gathering in a circle, saying and repeating basic words, looking at pictures, identifying the sounds of letters and syllables of various words. Then, for the discussion proper, we have a corresponding slide presentation for each lesson. So the slides in Cerebro's presentations are designed in a way that it will be appropriate and appealing to the age of students for a particular grade level. And they also include the specific learning competencies being addressed by the lesson being discussed. The number of slides for each presentation would also vary depending on the length of concepts being covered. Some presentations would have 20 to 30 slides, while other presentations may have 40 or even more slides depending on the topic. And after each lesson, there is also a corresponding quiz that aim to measure the student's level of understanding of the topic that was just discussed for that week. Most of the questions in Cerebro's ready-made quizzes are following the multiple choice format, since it is the recommended format of DepEd in order to better prepare the students in taking the National Achievement Test or the NAT, no? And the National Career Assessment Examination or NCAE, and even the PRC board examination in the future. Aside from allowing the students to master the art of answering multiple choice tests, this type of test also allows teachers to have the quizzes be automatically graded in the system. And since the grades are automatically computed, the grades are also automatically posted in the teacher's virtual gradebooks in the platform. Teachers can also edit the questions in the ready-made quizzes easily by just clicking on the questions tab from the top navigation bar, where they can improve how the questions are created, how the questions are written, modify correct answers or set additional distractors, and even add more questions utilizing other question types. If the teacher would like to add more questions, they can choose from a variety of question types like multiple choice, true or false, matching type, short answer or identification, numerical, essay, and many more. And after discussing all the lessons for the 8 weeks of the quarter, then the teacher can already administer the performance task, usually on the 9th week. And the performance task can be seen at the bottom part of every quarter, just after the last discussion topic. The performance task already follows the performance standard indicated in DepEd's curriculum guide. And it follows the GRASPS framework in line with the Understanding by Design or UBD curriculum model, where students will have a specific goal, role, audience, situation, product, or performance and standards to follow. And of course, teachers should be able to grade the students' outputs from this performance task by using the ready-made rubrics that we have provided in the system. So with this, teachers can just easily encode the student's scores based on how he or she graded the student's performance using the rubrics. And of course, on the 10th week, which is also the last week of the quarter, that is reserved for the major or periodical examination, which is usually done in pen and paper format. Or if you would like to conduct it online naman, teachers can also combine the test items from the different quizzes from all the topics of the quarter, so they can easily generate a long test covering all the quarterly lessons. Again, here are some points to remember about Cerebro's ready-made content. First is that Cerebro's lessons are aligned with DepEd's Matatag curriculum. If the subject you are teaching is part of Matatag, then most likely there is a ready-made content for it in Cerebro. Second is that each lesson is designed to have a duration of 1 week, and the week is ideally composed of 3 sessions for the following. No, 1 day for preliminary activity, 1 day for discussion proper, and 1 day for the post-test. And lastly, it is not necessary for students to use gadgets inside the classroom just to utilize Cerebro's content. Some activities can be done as assignments at home, while the lesson materials can also serve as reviewers after school. And again, always bear in mind that you are still the teacher, and as a teacher, you have the final say on what to do inside the classroom. Remember, the Matatag curriculum wants teachers to be flexible. So I encourage you to always be creative and do not be restricted by what is made available to you. Feel free to explore, innovate, and to adapt as necessary in order to give what is best for your students. And as I end my presentation, let me share with you this song that the Department of Education created as part of their advocacies for the new Matatag curriculum.
Ang tanging may pamamaan ako'y edukasyong Pilipino. Tinuturong galing at talino para maabot ang pangarap mo. Ang tanging handog ko sa'yo'y edukasyong Pilipino. Diskarteng mula sa puso, mamamangha ang mundo. Matatag na mga guro, matatag sa mga pagsubok, matatag na mga mag-aaral, matatag na talino'y umiiral. Hinaharap ang hirap, walang takot sumugod, humahanap ng solusyon, ipaglaban ang edukasyon.
And that ends my presentation for today. If you would like to reach out to us to see how we can help your teachers and schools implement the Matatag curriculum easily and more effectively, feel free to visit our website at cerebro.ph or contact us to conduct a training in your school using the contact information listed on the screen. Or if you are already a client of Cerebro, you may also reach out to our product specialist assigned to your school. For Cerebro's Luzon team, we have, of course, Jimel, Luis, and Sheila. And for Cerebro's Visayas and Mindanao team, we have Darwin, Yancis, Alondra, and Irish. They are very much willing to collaborate with you in maximizing the use of Cerebro's resources in your institution. Thank you very much and good morning.